And welcome to Waaaghtaktiks. Today we're here to come back with Fix My List. So we have a couple channel members who submitted lists that are going to events, GTs, and therefore we want to hit up their list and go over Fix My List. We're bringing it back new and improved, and it's a good way to support a community. So of course, check that out in the description. But of course, shout out to the Baron of Dice because nobody likes taxes. Check them out in the description as well for 5% off. And thank you to everybody who's been supporting us because Baron of Dice and our dice have been successful. So thank you everybody for that. So next we will move into our channel members list real quick. So he sent it to me in this format, but here's a sneak peek. I actually have it written in another format. I'll give you a quick peek real quick. All right, so when I go over this, we're going to talk about the players list. I'm going to talk about what I like about it because this is not about disparaging anybody. And the people did send me what they actually own. That way I'm able to actually suggest things that they're willing to do. Also, I know what they don't want to gut or remove from the list and what they want to kind of keep. So you'll see me work around that I'll be able to set things up in a way that doesn't utterly destroy the list and it's an actual relevant suggestion. So let me go over my boys list here, and thanks for the hair to snatcher comments. Hey, it looks weird. Sorry, I don't know what's going on with it. All right, so right here we have my boy Murder's Mouse. He's calling it Xanos Tactics. So we have a 1990 orc list with the Tactics Brigade. Sneak peek, both lists that we're going over today are going to have Tactic Brigade suggestions. So if you want to see how I feel about this army and how would I suggest, this will be a good video for that as a sneak peek. So for my boy, we have a Waaaghtaktiks, a Zagrot Waaaghtaktiks, a Big Mech in Mega Armor, 2 Big Mechs with Shock Attack Gun, 2 War Bosses in Mega Armor. Boom, that's it for the characters. He does have a Mech Captain on the Big Mech and Mega Armor. That's for the full rerolls to hit. And yes, it is on the Big Mech and Mega Armor. We will go into that in a second. And then we have 2 War Bosses. One of them is with Squad Leader. That way he can go with the commandos that are on the list. And then the other is a big old boy ready to fight. So he has 2 Battle Line Stormboy units, followed by a 10-man unit of flash kits that are obviously going with the Big Mech and Mega Armor for the full rerolls. And then he has 2 5-man units of flash kits, 1 small unit of Grots, a large unit of Grots for Zagrot Waaaghtaktiks, the Commando unit that gets the War Boss and Mega Armor, and then he has 2 Tank Busters for the Shock Attack Guns to attach to. Of course, they get reroll hits, and then they get the additional +1 strength from the Tank Busters War Gear. That way, the Shock Attack Gun is now AP 5, Strength 10. That's amazing. And he gives them reroll ones to hit, which you really appreciate. And then he has 4 trucks, and I do think that's a great number. I think anywhere between 3 and 4 for this detachment is solid. So real quick, what I want to point out here that I like about the list, because we want to talk about the positives and then go into things we're going to critique, and I'll show my suggested list because I already have the list suggested here. So we have the 2 mechs with Shock Attack Gun and the Tank Busters are absolutely worth it in this detachment. They're in this current meta as it's unfolded, things did come out as we were kind of predicting, where people are getting really thick with vehicle heavy. You got fat demons running around. You got plenty of Tyranid players running around. You have plenty of 3 wound infantry that are running around with how 8-pounder being used in the new detachments. So all in all, you actually appreciate the ability that you can pop vehicles. If it's below Strength 10, you're absolutely destroying it with Tank Busters. If it doesn't have an invuln, your Shock Attack Gun is absolutely melting it with -5 AP. And all in all, absolutely something that I suggest in this detachment. The fact that you can give them +1 to hit means you can offset someone if they have smoke, or if they have stealth, of course, right? And if you're shooting infantry, it means you're still hitting them on 4s. So that makes a big difference. Absolutely like them. I also think Zagrot Waaaghtaktiks is slept on until you actually start taking him to events and running him out. I will suggest you practice him on multiple layouts. Because you're going to have to make sure you stage him up in the middle of the table somewhere safe. Luckily, Gaz will be kind of near him as well if maybe you need to get a nice heroic off. But the good and you're not Gaz on this list. Oops, I suggested. But he's gonna take up a middle area a lot of the time. So I definitely suggest him when it's got wall time. He runs up and he touches tanks. He touches units that are gun lines that you don't want to deal with. He stands in places that vehicles don't want to. If people have transports, then they surround them. Then that way when they fall back, they're not even allowed to disembark. Or if you completely trap it, then they're scared to even do it at all. Because sometimes the best way to deal with like a really annoying unit that's within the transport is simply surround it. So Zagrot's really good for that. And of course, flipping primary in this detachment is amazing when you can give yourself more OC, and these guys already have OC. So when you're Zaghrot's fantastic, but I do recommend reps. So these are my favorite parts of the list. And then last but certainly not least, the Big Mech and Mega Armor with the flash kits with the rerolls to hit, absolutely worth it. Most of us around the community were talking about the shock attack gun, and I think that's totally fine. I think he's totally valid. But he goes better with the tank busters because the Big Mac with shock attack gun gives the nice durability to the flash kits to allow them to stay around in the game, allow them to get a utility of the Overwatch going off, because even if they get shot, they can continue to, playing throughout the game and having a purpose other than the one turn that they pop lethals. And then also, if you decide to get into a fight, you have some power claws or kill saw attacks from the Big Mac, and then you can fall back and still regen somebody and shoot and charge. So you take advantage of the combined arms aspect, where the Big Mac and shock attack gun, he's really soft. He can get precisioned out quite reliably. Therefore, having a thick boy inside that unit ends up paying off. Absolutely worth it. Those are my favorite parts of this list. But I have to make the suggestions, and luckily I have it written out here. So we move on. The units that I have now suggested, and as you can see, I have removed some units. Here is the suggested Waaaghtaktiks detachment list for my boy Murda Mouf. Now, a couple things I want to point out here is I did actually drop Boss Snickrot from the original list. I don't think Boss Snickrot is necessarily mandatory or even that vital in this detachment. He's a little too overcosted. He's pretty soft, and you're kind of just waiting for him to go off and do something. When in this detachment, you already have a lot of units that can run around and do stuff, and orders are pretty pivotal here. He can give someone order, but it's something that, of course, we can see solo mechs doing such. I don't think Boss Snickrot needs to stick around, nor do I think the multiple war bosses and mega armors that you had on this list, because you had one for the commandos, and then you had and then one for just your war boss and mega armor unit. I think if you're going to go for the mega knobs actually doing something in damage, you simply pay for gas. You simply pay for gas, and you appreciate him. And so you dropped a couple mega knobs here so you can offset some of the gas cost, and you lost the squad leader, war boss, and mega armor to go along your side, your commandos. Well, let me explain that. So I know and I understand the utility of not being overwatched and being able to walk right up to someone and just appreciate that with your war boss and mega armor. I appreciate getting in someone's way, wall blocking, giving them charges when you can't, like I said, can't be overwatched with your mega boss, and probably doing some proper damage. But I'm not often ever suggesting you turn one wall, right? Search and destroy deployment against the right matchup with Zod and all the commandos and everything, sure, it can work. But in other situations, you just have a very expensive, frontline unit that is kind of still waiting for the wall, because the mega boss has low AP, he's only 2 damage, and he's only 4 attacks. So even his skirmishes outside aren't highly impressive. And a lot of the time, the commandos are really just, like I said, going out to get in the way, or just tag people. Let's say if you surround an impulsor, or if someone's in, riding the side, of the map, you can kind of try to surround their vehicles. You could try to block lines of paths for people to run through walls with just commandos standing up in the way. So a lot of time, you're not really always looking to get charges off with them, and they only move 6 inches. So if you deploy 9 inches away and then you move 6, someone should be able to just simply block your deep charges deeply into their lines, and then you're kind of just standing in the open with a 200-point unit, for example. I mean, I think it's more than that. Let's see, squad leader is 105, and then commandos are 120. So yeah, you're paying 225 for just, I'm gonna stand here maybe, right? So I don't really like that. Do I suggest that? It's no hate on anybody who wants to use it, go ahead, but he's going to a GT, so I'm going to suggest the optimal units for this GT, right? So he did lose those mega bosses. Other than that, a lot of the core things he had on this list very much stayed, and that's what I want to do with these Fix My List. I want you guys to keep things are good and just make them slightly tweaked here and there. So in the green, you can see what I suggested that he changed with these point changes and adjustments. And then he also kept some of the enhancements as well that I wanted. So you can see that I kept the Big Mech and Mega Armor, of course, both the shock attack gun. Of course, I added gas. And then I asked the solo mech for the big gob boomer, right? I want someone who can yell at Waaaghtaktiks for stealth. And I also want someone who can yell at the independent flash kit units that are 5-man units, or someone that can yell at the Gretchen, or someone that can yell at the basic boys on the list, or someone who can yell at the Storm Boys. So, of course, Gaz, he could probably give some orders to a Storm Boy unit, because they can stage near him and then run out. So he can give someone order, but in reality, you want someone who can give Zod orders. You want someone who can give other flash kits that are in this SWAT team, right? So you could see what also I like about this list is that you could put tank busters in a truck and then 5 flash kits, and you use the mech to give that truck +1 a hit. So now you have a mobile firing deck, and he's giving orders. So he's taking advantage of the stealth. He can do a secondary for you. He can give something +1 a hit, and he can yell an order. So he can do 3 different things for you by simply moving around and standing in places. So very hard for me not to suggest a solo mech in this detachment, especially because you have these sweet SWAT teams running around. So you could just make the truck shooting at something that's early game and start chipping it down or killing it if you're not willing to disembark from the truck. So this is the Fix My list. Of course, the boys are there for sticky, and they can also get their own truck because you still retain 4 trucks on this list. A lot of the time you want to just run up and either tag your own natural expansion objective. That way, you know, you can not commit too early with units so he can get killed on it. He has to go touch it. Or you can go to their natural expansion objective, put a lot of OC there, make them come kill your boys, and put enough C maybe to flip it. And then in response, have something to reply with. So a lot of the time I will allow my boys to, you know, either tag my home if the enemy has any chance of getting my home objective. And if they don't, then I simply let the truck move up and then disembark them and try to keep them safe. Of course, it would be harder for your mech to actually give him an order, since he, you know, he would have to be in a vehicle as well. And then when he gets out, yell the order for orders to like. Is my list for my boy Murda Mouf. It still kept everything you wanted. Didn't want to swap your SWAT teams. I thought they were great. I thought your most of your kit was pretty solid. You just need to get some reps here, and hopefully you can figure out how to utilize gas. And you still got 3 mega knobs, so a little more forgiving if you take some damage, and it helps you punch and hopefully make gas last a little longer. So shout out to my boy Murda Mouf Blood Moons, whoa, for the Fix My list, and hopefully you like it. And we move on. So we move on to my boy Aaron, none ya business. So here's Aaron's entry for his Waaaghtaktiks Brigade detachment. This is his iteration. So let's go over my boys list before I suggest any changes. So we have Gazgul Thraka. So my boy Aaron, channel member, knows what's up. He knows I'm gonna suggest Gaz. He brought him right away. Boom, great, love to see it. Then we have a Big Mac and Mega Armor. This is very popular, I'm sure, among multiple org communities, but in our community specifically, people are loving the Big Mac and Mega Armor with the reroll hits. So absolutely love it. And of course, Aaron decided to bring 2 solo mechs, one with the deploy and one with the big gob bomber. So I actually really do like that. One thing here that you'll notice that came to my mind, and I did have to ask him, is you don't have commandos on your list or infiltrators or scouting or anything that interesting. So why do you have redeploy? So we'll talk about that once we look at his list, but he does want to keep that, and we did retain that. But before we do that, we got a shout out to my boy ECOP 5 Waaaghtaktiks memberships. Whoa! So if you want a Fix My list or to help us out and get some love from my boy ECOP, thank you very much. Give a war boss for my boy here and join the Waaaghtaktiks Discord. Thank you very much, ECOP. Love you, buddy. You're always a great help. And you know, if you're ever in the Discord or on Facebook, hit me up, have a chat, and maybe we could get you on Fix My list. And speaking of Waaaghtaktiks memberships, war for 10 Waaaghtaktiks memberships from the big boss himself, Aaron, none your business. So hopefully I do you right here after you did that. Look at him, he's bribing me, guys. You see that? No, I'm kidding. But thank you very much, Jaron. Very generous of you. If we get some war bosses and mega knobs in chat for these 2 lovely, generous gets, and hopefully I don't let you down. So here we go with his list as we continue. My boy does have 3 5-man units of Storm Boys. I think that's the sweet spot right now. I see great arguments for why you can bring more, or even why you bring less. I think that's really cool about this detachment. You know, a lot of versatility in how people are running this, but I feel good with 3. Some of my lists only have 2, but 3 is a really good number. Then again, he has 3 trucks. So again, I like that he's riding the line of 3. And right here, these 6 units we just talked about, 3 Storm Boys, 3 trucks, absolutely vital for just being all over the battlefield and scoring for other armies. Think about it like this: a lot of armies in 40K simply have like you know, 10 to 12 units in their armies. The fact that you already have 6 just 65-point units running around that are doing stuff is value itself. Don't ever underappreciate that as an orc player. Then you have 2 individual solo mechs. He did want to keep the solo mechs because he wants to have a threat to very tough durable fly units that fly keyword. I think that's a totally fine call. You have, oh, it's 4 trucks. Maybe I got one popped out of my detachment. It is 4 on his first suggestion. I think I messed up. All right, good. On his first suggestion, he still had 4. Yes, he had 4. All right, cool. So I'm gonna just pull it out there. Thanks for saying that. And see, I already messed up after you tried to bribe me. Can't unbribe that. All right, so he has 4 trucks, still solid, even better. Then he has 2 individual solo mechs. Like I said, he does it for the flying boys that he has in his army. And then he has 3 big bricks of flashy gets. So of course he does have the big boy for reroll hits, and then he has each one that can get inside of a truck, and then they can get +1 a hit as well from the mechs that are there. So mobile transports and everything like that. Love to see it. And then you have a 10-man unit of Gretchen, a big old fat unit of Meganobs with Waaaghtaktiks, and then you have 2 tank busters. So I absolutely found this a lot of things that I liked about this list as well. I like you have multiple lists mechs to give orders and so that you can give those mobile file supports. I don't think by any means it's mandatory to bring 2. I just think you do appreciate having 2. Right now I have 1 on my list, but this is not bad at all. I like the Big Mac and Mega Armor, like I said. Not going to have to repeat that too often. And then I love that you brought gas. The 2 individual Mac guns are cool. Put them in reserve, come in and score, and maybe you get damage off. Of course, there's arguments for bubble chuckers, but I like that you just straight up track the cannon, just roll your shot, just roll real quick, one quick dice, boom, did I get it? Did I get it? Boom, continue to keep moving on, right? Bubble chuckers are like a lot of unnecessarily rolling, and Aaron's going to a GT. I think that's smart, right? If you get lucky damage on Morty, fantastic. If you don't, all right. And then last, like my boy Murda said in chat, I like that you kept it lean, Aaron, on the characters. That being said, a fixed light list, I am suggesting a couple characters. So we move on to the suggested changes with the fix my list. So in green, again, you can see some of the changes I made. And yes, I deliberately did only have 3 trucks in my change. So sorry, that's probably why I put 3 only in on your slide on accident. So we have the suggested changes. We still kept Waaaghtaktiks. Absolutely find them useful in this attachment. Keep in mind, you can give them sustained, then have sustain, critical 5+, and then lethal. That's nice for Gaz if you have to do a sweep into something that has a bunch of 4-up invulns and that you're wounding on 2s. So it just helps you with that. And then you have 2 Big Mac with shock attack guns. I told that with my boy Murda Mouf. I brought him for that. He had him already on this list. I think it was very important that you bring them with the tank busters. A lot of the time, the shock attack guns are doing most of the damage because of the fact that you have -5 AP into these armored up vehicles. You got to keep in mind that something like a Land Raider can armor of contempt. He gets cover, and then he'll pop smoke. And then really he'll be taking 3-up armor saves to your tank buster shots. A lot of the time you really just need that AP from the shock attack guns to get through. Tyranids and Space Marines are everywhere, and neither of them have built-in invulns into a lot of their things, right? I know Maliceptor does, but we're talking about the majority of Tyranid monsters don't. So you appreciate that on those, and they're very popular armies. Of course, if you go into demons, then it's still fine. You still appreciate that you're strength 10 and you're multi-damage 6, and that you're your Oiler, I believe he allows you to re-roll the amount of shots. So when it's that go time, he's actually kind of really important for that. So I did suggest those. You did keep your enhancements because when Aaron and I spoke, he wanted to keep the redeploys. The reason he likes to do that is he very much likes to take his flash kits, put them on the line in some matchups, and then just pick them up for the enemy to essentially line up and try to kill them. And then when it's time to redeploy, he just picks them up and put them in reserves, and he leaves people closer for his gas bomb. So I wanted to keep that on the list as well. Just remember, if you're doing the redeploy, you can't redeploy into a transport. So you have to know that you're willing to commit to that, but he still has multiple trucks so that he could put guys inside of there if you choose to, or you can put some in reserves. In this case, I still do have the tank busters that, like I said, they can go inside of trucks, and then the mechs will still give them +1 to hit, so they could be mobile firing transports too, with whichever layout that he really wants. Still have 3 Storm Boys because I love them. He did add another Gretchen unit here because we really were just left with 40 points, and he wasn't willing to lose a mech gun necessarily. Wasn't willing to lose any other enhancements. But if he comes around to changing your mind after you've played it out, Aaron, you do have a Mega Knob here because there's 3. You could drop a Mega Knob, you could drop a Grot, one of the Grot units, and you could bring boys, and we drop mech guns and an enhancement, and a Grot unit, you can bring, Beast Snagger Boys, and then, you could take advantage of the fact that they reroll hits and then pop lethal on them. Outside of the wall or on the wall, you can do sustain and then lethal from Gaz as well if they're into something. So you could mess with it, but like I said, when we spoke, Aaron wanted to keep both the mech guns. He wanted to keep his enhancements. And I know that he wants to have like a threatening big Gaz bomb. So he doesn't really want to even lose a third Mega Knob. So I tried to fit it to 5. I couldn't. But that being said, I actually still like this. Having more stuff like Grots and 10-man units with good OC, multiple OC will help you in some layouts because you have like a lot of kind of big elite bricks. It might be good for them to either screen your backfield or to like get in the way in melee matchups for something like your flash kits, so people can't just run them down if you run into 8 bound. Of course, Gretchen are good at like on the wall charging into dreadnoughts because they have more bodies than dreadnoughts do have melee attacks. So their 5-up invuln can make it so you can flip primary in that way too. And they can help you trap enemy vehicles or block off, mobility and gun lines. So overall, if you have more Grots, that's not really bad. You already have a good amount of chaff here. So if you ever did make any suggested changes, it would be to swap to a Beast Boss and Beast Snagger Boys. So if you're willing to change some of those things you really didn't want to after we spoke and everything, I would say that if you drop some mech guns, some Gretchen, one of the enhancements, maybe even one of the mechs, you could fit a whole Beast Snagger Boy unit and then a Beast Boss. And I think that would go really far. Other than that, I really like this list. The 30 flash kits is absolutely insane. And I think it's really good that you have 2 mechs so you can give them both orders. So if you really want to keep the mechs, totally good with that too. The only thing that you'll have issues with is a bunch of armies that have like a 2-up armor saves. Yet that's why you have Gaz. That's why you have tank busters. That's why you have shock attack guns. So hopefully you can offset that. Of course, never forget throwing your grenades from your storm boys. Never forget your bomb squigs. And you can pretty much shoot through those gits anyways. And if you have to, at the end of the day, you tank shock with your truck. So that being said, war for Aaron's Fix My List with the Nunya business. So hopefully I did you good. I thought both of those lists were pretty good fundamentally, and they felt pretty good. So of course, shout out to our paint competition winners, and thank you to all our channel members, to everybody who's been doing this. We look forward to bringing you more Fix My List. Hopefully that was fun, and it was also informative, whether you were just watching or someone that actually submitted their list. I think orcs are in a great place right now, and everybody should be interested in just flexing their brain power and their cunningness and running whatever they want. So these are just suggestions. Do whatever you may, but there's always one thing to keep in mind is don't cross our wall because we not get to eval. Whoa!